Hi, my name is Michael Beckstead, and today I'm going to be discussing an operating system overview and analysis of Ubuntu. Technology is absolutely amazing. It is continually growing, regardless of what is going on. Technology has been a massive part of the majority of society. Without it, most things would cease to exist. As far as computers go, there are many operating systems available to its users. Some mainstream operating systems are Windows, Mac, and even Android and Google for mobile devices. The subject of this presentation is Ubuntu. The list of questions presented are the topics that will be addressed in this PowerPoint presentation. In the following slides, each of these questions will be addressed. Before the presentation continues, Ubuntu was chosen for its complete flexibility and customization. Ubuntu is also unlike most modern operating systems. That is what makes it interesting and therefore the best topic to discuss. So what is Ubuntu? Firstly, according to Haas 2018, he mentions that Ubuntu is a super popular Linux operating system and that it is more than just an operating system. According to Haas, he also mentions that the term Ubuntu derives from South Africa and roughly translates to humanity towards others. The Ubuntu project, according to Haas, is committed to the principles of open source software development. It is free to install and free to modify. Finally, according to Strickland 2011, he mentions that Ubuntu is a distribution or distro of Linux. In Linux lingo, a distribution is a version of the operating system that has the Linux kernel as its foundation. There are literally hundreds of different Linux distros. Think of a chemical compound like water. There are 2 hydrogen atoms for every 1 oxygen atom. The oxygen atom is like a kernel, and the 2 hydrogen atoms are the distros added to make up something that can be used later on. Ubuntu is like the chemical compound of water. In an era where the frontiers of motivation are public and not private, the platforms for consuming that innovation should enable everyone to participate. If operating systems like Ubuntu are public knowledge, why aren't other operating systems following Ubuntu's example? Operating systems that are publicly broadcast should give the user the ability to fully customize their operating system. Eventually, people will come to realize this. Technological understanding will surpass those that are creating the restrictive operating systems and preventing full customization. At that time, people will flock to operating systems like Ubuntu, not only because it is different, but also because the user can make Ubuntu 100% unique. According to Canonical Limited 2018, they mention the following. Users should have the freedom to download, run, copy, distribute, study, share, change, and improve the software for any purpose without paying licensing fees. Secondly, the user should be able to use their software in the language of their choice. And then thirdly, the user should be able to use all software regardless of disability. The main role of Ubuntu is to give beginning programmers the chance to really understand and grasp the basics of programming. According to Rouse 2009, she said that Ubuntu is a great way for beginning programmers to get their feet wet in the basics of programming. It is highly likely that there are some beginning programmers out there. Have they come across operating systems like Ubuntu? Maybe, maybe not. As mentioned previously, it is a great operating system to better understand the basics of programming. According to Canonical Limited 2018, they mention the following. Ubuntu comes with everything you need to run your organization, school, home, or enterprise. All the essential applications like an office suite, browsers, email, and media apps come pre-installed, and thousands more games and applications are available in the Ubuntu Software Center. Not only is Ubuntu completely customizable to the utmost degree, it also comes with the basic programs to get things rolling. The user will not have to go out and search for things like Word or PowerPoint unless they absolutely want to. In the next series of slides, these 3 bullets will be investigated. Bullet number 1, the control panel, aka system settings on Ubuntu. The control panel is located under system settings. Once a search is performed, the user can add it as a favorite for later access via the taskbar on the left-hand side of the screen. To get started, first select the pattern of 9 dots in the lower left-hand corner of the screen and type in system settings in the search bar. Then it will postulate the icon for accessing the control panel. Bullet number 2, the security settings programs for Ubuntu. Certificates are for X.509 certificates and related keys. Secure shell is where keys are stored that are used to connect to other computers. PGP keys are keys for encrypting emails or files. It was also mentioned that Ubuntu is secure straight out of the box. There is no need for additional anti-spyware malware. For surfing the internet, extra security measures were taken, and a safer browser called Chromium was installed. Here's a photo of both the browser and the description of the application. For additional network security, a VPN was installed on the Ubuntu operating system. A VPN is a virtual private network. Bullet number 3, System Performance Monitor for Ubuntu. This tool first has to be downloaded for the user to effectively view the performance of the computer. Once the System Monitor is downloaded, the user can access the System Monitor application. Select the icon and the user will be able to view the processes, resources, and file systems. In this slide, the processes being executed are displayed in a long list. The Task Manager on Windows is quite similar. Next up is an image displaying the resources being used. Here's a grouping of 3 graphs showing the resources being used. This would be helpful in understanding how bogged down the computer is from all the programs that are consuming computer resources. If computer resources are being consumed too fast, programs can be deleted and more efficient programs put in place. This list shows the file systems that are drawing from their allotted computer resources. What are some of the underlying components that make up the Ubuntu Linux operating system? According to Sabaj 2016, they address the following. There are a lot of components inside a Linux distribution, hundreds and actually thousands of software executables that are combined together in order to provide you with a running, usable operating system. In Linux software, there are many components, so only 3 will be introduced. According to Sabaj, they also mention the following quotation. Linux kernel is responsible for linking the software to the hardware and distributing resources among software applications. It also runs the I/O processes and executes them by passing them to the CPU. It's also responsible for turning on hardware parts like GPU, sound cards, internet cards, RAM, hard disks, etc. The kernel is super important because all files, everything, is built upon the kernel. Without the kernel, there would be no Linux operating system. The Ubuntu operating system would cease to exist. Sabaj also addresses that the bash shell and its utilities, which is actually the command line interface where you enter the commands you want the system to execute directly, is the spirit of Linux operating system, or Linux distribution. Thirdly, Sabaj also states the following quotation. A display server is the responsible software about drawing the graphical user interface on the screen, from icons to windows and menus. Every graphical thing you see on the screen is done by a display server, known also as Windows System. Without a display server, you will end up using the black command line interface for the whole screen. The display server is super important because without it, the only thing that would be visible is the command line box. According to tutorials.com 2018, they mention the following quotation. Memory management is the functionality of an operating system which handles or manages primary memory and moves processes back and forth between main memory and disk during execution. Memory management keeps track of each and every memory location, regardless if it is allocated to some process or if it is free. It checks how much memory is to be allocated to the processes. Memory management also decides which process will get memory at what time. It tracks whenever some memory gets freed or unallocated, and correspondingly it updates status. Ubuntu manages memory from the system monitor. From there, the user can select a given task that may be utilizing too much system memory and end the task. It is a lot like the Task Manager on Windows. So how does Ubuntu support multitasking? According to Krawitz 2007, they state the following. The definition encompasses your ability to switch between programs, communicate between the applications, and find running programs. Ubuntu may also has many options for finding the right application. These include the Windows list, Windows selector, and keyboard for switching between applications. That is how Ubuntu goes about supporting multitasking. It is incredible how customizable this operating system is. The options are virtually endless, and the sky's the limit. So how does Ubuntu Linux perform process scheduling? Ubuntu Man Page Repository 2018 states the following. The scheduler is the kernel component that decides which runnable thread will be executed by the CPU next. Each thread has an associated scheduling policy and a static scheduling priority. The scheduler makes the decisions based on the knowledge of the scheduling policy and static priority of all threads on the system. Performing process scheduling is more than a little bit important when dealing with Ubuntu. Think of it as the order of operations in mathematics. If things get chaotic, the chances of messing something up are high. If the scheduler gets wiped out, the operating system goes with it. There is a laundry list of security features for Ubuntu. Therefore, only a couple will be introduced. According to DigitalOcean 2013, they mentioned that the UFW, or uncomplicated firewall, is a front end to IP tables. Its main goal is to make managing your firewall drop dead simple and to provide an easy to use interface. Having a simple and user-friendly firewall is awesome to have. Simple applications are a blessing. Ubuntu primarily works with the command line, which may already be difficult for some users, and any reprieve from simple applications is greatly appreciated. According to the Kubernetes authors, 2018, they mentioned the following quotation. AppArmor is a Linux kernel security module that supplements the standard Linux user and group-based permissions to confine programs to a limited set of resources. AppArmor can also help you to run a more secure deployment by restricting what containers are allowed to do, and or provide better auditing through system logs. Having an application that further secures one's computer is great to have running in the background. Being able to keep tabs on all activities system-wide provides a great deal of mental comfort. AppArmor will help detect patterns of irregularity and potential system malfunctions. How does Ubuntu Linux support file management? The user can access the root directory to manage various files and folders to their liking. According to Alpha 2011, they mention the following. In Ubuntu, there's a single root directory for the entire system, referred to simply as a regular slash. Not a backslash as used in Windows. And all disks and devices appear within that hierarchy, or this hierarchy. How does it support file operations? Ubuntu is not for those that are timid when it comes to working from the command line. One has to be comfortable with writing individual commands so that operations can take place. According to Ellingwood, 2014, he mentions the following. If you do not have much experience working with Linux systems, you may be overwhelmed by the prospect of controlling an operating system from the command line. Ellingwood also states that many commands and programs can create files. The most basic method of creating a file is the touch command. This will create an empty file using the name and location specified. According to Haas 2016, Ubuntu will notify you when updates are available for installation. You can tweak the settings so that the updates work the way you want them to. When it comes to actually updating Ubuntu, New World 2017 mentions the following. The first piece of software to check out is software updates. You can open this package by pressing the super key Windows key on your keyboard to bring up the Ubuntu dash and search for software. An icon will appear for software and updates. Click on this icon. The next application you need to know about for keeping your system up to date is the software updater. If you have your update settings set to display immediately when there are updates, this will load automatically whenever a new update requires installation. There are a ton of similarities and differences that can be drawn between Ubuntu and Macintosh. 3 will be addressed. According to Hattersley 2016, they mentioned that Apple has created its own Unix-based kernel called Darwin that sits underneath OS X. Apple has its version of kernel, but does it compare to Ubuntu with its Linux kernel foundation? The answer is no. According to Hattersley, they mentioned the following quotation. While OS X is the only operating system based on Darwin, there are many different versions of Linux based on the Linux kernel, and each acts as a fully featured operating system with desktop interfaces, menus, apps, and so on. So who is the victor? Ubuntu. However, both are similar regarding kernels at the core of both operating systems. According to Hattersley, when it comes to freedom in prices and customization, they mention the following quotation. Ubuntu is completely free, both in terms of cost and in the sense of being open source. OS X El Capitan is also free, but it's locked to Apple computers, so you can legitimately argue that its cost is rolled into the price of hardware. Mac hardware, although high quality, isn't known for being budget friendly. So Ubuntu is completely free. What about Macintosh OS X? Nope. Who is the victor? To explain what open source means and why people use Linux is the first place. Hattersley also mentions the following. One of the principal reasons people use Linux instead of Windows or OS X is because Linux is an open source operating system. Ubuntu is licensed under the GPL General Public License that enables users to see their source code, modify it, and redistribute it, as long as your new distribution remains GPL.